Home prices across Florida are about to crash and crash hard. In fact, they're already going down and inventory is spiking, especially in the 10 cities on this list. If you're a home buyer, a seller, or an investor, you need to be very, very careful if you're in one of these 10 cities in Florida because values could collapse by 20, 30, maybe even 40% over the next several years. Starting in our number 10 city in Florida, where prices are dropping right now, this is an area where inventory has absolutely exploded. Cape Coral, Fort Myers. You can see that 3 years ago, at the height of the pandemic, there was only 1,900 homes in Cape Coral. Now there's over 9,000 on the market, the highest level going back 7 to 8 years. And when you see that inventory spike, everyone, in your city and neighborhood, that's a sign that the market's in a downturn. There's excess supply flooding the market from builders and investors, and people forced to sell in Florida because they can't afford their insurance and HOA fees. The result is an absolutely mind-boggling amount of listings here on the market in Cape Coral, with many owners now cutting the price as a result. However, home values in Cape Coral are still about 22% overvalued compared to their long-term norms, suggesting that there's still lots of downside to go. Similarly, you're going to want to be careful in our number 9 city in Florida where home prices are crashing. This is an area that has a history of lots of housing crashes in its past. Values in this city crashed by 40% in the last downturn from 2007 to 2012, and they're starting to go down again in Jacksonville. You can see here, according to data on Reventure app, that median list prices in Jacksonville are down 4% over the last year. However, as you can see, these list prices are still very high to where they were before the pandemic, which is leading to a big drop in buyer demand that has caused inventory to absolutely spike to its highest level on record. And Jacksonville is an absolute favorite market for real estate investors. The real estate investors bought as many as 40% of the homes in Jacksonville at the peak of the pandemic, particularly on the west side of the metro, where they turned a lot of these homes into rentals, everyone. Look at all these rental homes on the market for like $1,500 a month from these Wall Street investors in Jacksonville. However, now many of these investors are selling in Jacksonville, which is why we've seen a big inventory spike. Don't be surprised if prices in Jacksonville end up going down anywhere from 15 to 20% over the next couple years due to how overvalued they are today. Now, before getting into our number 8 city where home prices are going down and on the verge of crashing in Florida, I want to issue a broader warning to Florida home buyers and investors. And that's the fact that this is a state that crashed 50% in the last housing downturn from 2007 to 2012. It has a very volatile past. And now we're just at the start of this downturn in 2024, heading into 2025 in Florida. So there's lots of downside, particularly in our number 8 city in Florida, where prices are dropping, Naples. Now, I call Naples the California of Florida, and the reason I do that, everyone, is because Naples is really expensive. The typical home value here is over $600,000, which is basically California prices. Just to get in the door in Naples, in a house that isn't even that nice, you got to pay 600 grand. However, take a look here at what happened during the last downturn in Naples, everyone. Prices surged up to 450, then they crashed to 224, a 50% drop. I think we're on the cusp of something that could be pretty similar this time around. Because one thing about Naples that you got to be concerned about is just how many vacant houses there are across the metro. Naples is the capital of absentee home owners. That almost 30% of the houses in Naples sit vacant a majority of the time. Because if we consult data on Reventure app for the vacancy rate across America, we can see that Naples' vacancy rate is the third highest in the US at 30.8%. Only 2 other metros have a higher vacancy rate, Salisbury, Maryland, and Barnstable, Massachusetts. That sky-high vacancy rate in Naples, combined with prices that are 26% overvalued, suggests that there's lots of downside in a recession, in a housing downturn, because if someone buys a second or third home in Naples, it's pretty easy for them to sell that home if they were to run out of money or if they can't afford their insurance or HOA costs. A trend that's already caused median list prices in Naples to go down by 10% over the last year, from 854,000 to 770,000. But I think the downturn is going to be even bigger in our number 7 housing market, where people are just selling out of right now in Florida. Like, the inventory spike in this market is absolutely immense over the last year, and there's tons and tons of downside that you need to be careful of in Orlando, Florida. And the issue that I see in Orlando's housing market is that its local economy is heavily based on the service sector. It's heavily based on Disney World. It's heavily based on fast casual dining restaurants, which is great in an economic upturn, in an economic expansion. However, when we enter economic recession, an economy like Orlando tends to get hit pretty hard. With the unemployment rate across the metro spiking to 22% during the pandemic and over 10% during the 2008 to 2010 crash, you can see today's unemployment rate is 2.9. However, that is unlikely to last. And as the unemployment in Orlando goes up, don't be surprised if home prices go down. Prices in Orlando are about 28% overvalued from their long-term norms, and we are already seeing the number of homes for sale in the market spike by a lot. With for sale inventory surging from a low of 4,000 during the pandemic to over 11,000 homes on the market in Orlando today. You can see again, that's the highest level on record going back 7 to 8 years. Look at that inventory data for yourself on Reventure app. At the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that. But first, we got to get into our number 6 housing market where prices in Florida are crashing right now. And I really would not want to be a buyer in this market because it's an absolute free fall. The investors are selling, and sometimes they're selling at a massive loss in Punta Gorda at number 6. Now, folks, I want to show you this. Punta Gorda here is in southwest Florida. It's about 2 hours south of Tampa. There's 3,400 homes on the market in Punta Gorda today, compared to 600 3 years ago. So the inventory has gone up 500% to the highest level on record by far. And that skyrocketing inventory is now causing sellers in Punta Gorda to panic, particularly investors. These investors who bought at the peak of the bubble in Punta Gorda are now selling at massive losses. Like on this listing, it's on the market for $336,000, a 3-bed, 2-bath. You can see it was originally purchased in May 2022 for $445,000 by an investor called First Key Homes. So 2 years later, they have it listed for $336,000. So they're taking a 25% loss on their purchase price. And that's got to scare you, everyone, as a buyer. Like when the investors start selling, I mean, that flips the market in a massive way. And that, it's almost hard to judge just how much downside there could be on prices. On one hand, you say good news, more inventory prices are dropping, but how do you know they're not going to drop another 20% after you buy? After all, values in Punta Gorda are still 31% overvalued compared to their long-term norms, suggesting that there's still lots of downside. Now, our number 5 housing market where prices are dropping in Florida is an area that a lot of people thought would not get hit by a housing downturn. I heard so many people say that this city would be immune because so many people were moving there and so many jobs were being created. Yet fast forward to today, and we are seeing a massive downshift in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida housing market. I want you to look at this graph. It's the for sale inventory in Tampa, St. Pete. Last year, there was 8,300 homes on the market. Now there's 16,250 homes on the market, by far the highest level in the last 7 years. In fact, that inventory growth in Tampa of 94% year over year is the highest in America. No other market has higher year over year inventory growth than Tampa. But what's amusing to me, everyone? I've actually spent a lot of time in Tampa and St. Petersburg over the last month, and a lot of the locals there are not aware of what's going on in the market. A lot of locals in Tampa and St. Pete still think prices are going up and that the market's appreciating, but boy, they're going to be in for a rude awakening very, very soon. As we can see that the median list prices in Tampa, St. Pete are down by 5.4% over the last year. So there's already been kind of a correction in the market, but I want you guys to take a look here at the days on the market. How long homes are sitting on the market in Tampa, St. Pete? Oh boy, you can see the problem. We went from days on the market of 29 2 years ago to 59 today. So not only do we have the highest inventory in the last 7 years, we also have the highest days on the market, the amount of time the homes are sitting. And the longer that the homes sit on the market, the more that the sellers are going to have to become aware of the fact that there's a market downturn and reduce the price. But now, folks, are you ready for our top 4 cities in Florida where home prices are set to crash into the future? These are markets that have huge downside. They're very overvalued. In fact, they're over 30% overvalued in all of these top 4 markets, suggesting if you were to buy today, there could be the potential for even more declines into the future. Starting at number 4, Ocala, Florida. Ocala is known as the horse capital of America. There's a lot of horse farms, there's a lot of cows. It kind of reminds me of Texas. It's located about an hour and a half drive north of Tampa, also kind of close to Orlando. And you can see the inventory in Ocala. I mean, folks, it's going off the charts. We're up to 2,700 homes for sale right now. In the summer of 2024, you can see before the pandemic, it was only 21 homes for sale in Ocala. So we're even now 25% above pre-pandemic on inventory, which is suggesting that home prices are going to drop. And I know I actually have a lot of you guys looking up there in Ocala. So if you are, take your time, be patient. Things are tilting more into your favor. There's no need to rush. But folks, our number 3 housing market is going to be probably the most controversial one on this list, because I know a lot of people still think that this market will never go down. I was just in this market a month ago, and a lot of people told me it's going to go up forever. However, when you look at the data, Miami, Florida, including Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach, seem to be entering a downturn. Because if we shift to the county view on Reventure app, we can see that list prices in Palm Beach County are down 13% over the last year. They're down by 14% in Broward County, and they're down by 8% in Miami-Dade. So we got big drops in list prices in Southeast Florida to go along with big spikes in inventory as well. In Broward County, inventory is up 92% year over year, going from 7,000 homes last year to 13,000 homes this year. Once again, highest level in 7 years. And one thing to understand is that there's often a lag effect with the inventory spike. So the inventory spikes, and then often it takes another 3, 6, maybe even 12 months for home prices to react in response. And so a lot of people looking in Southeast Florida right now, you might still say to yourself, the market is very expensive, and you would be right. Prices there are 30% overvalued still. However, the market is going more in your favor, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see bigger and bigger price drops over the next 6 months based on the current data. Now, our number 2 city is one actually where prices haven't dropped that much yet. List prices are only down by 2%, and according to the Zillow Home Value Index, values still actually are up over the last year on a more aggregate level. However, I have real fear that a massive crash is about to hit Lakeland, Florida. Because in Lakeland, we are seeing a spike in inventory in homes for sale and a massive sell-off that is breathtaking, to say the least. You can see here in Polk County, which is the county that comprises Lakeland, the number of homes for sale is up to 4,400, everyone. Before the pandemic, it was 2,800. So we now are almost 50% above pre-pandemic level inventory numbers, and we're about 500% higher than the pandemic lows. So this is literally a level of homes for sale in Polk County that we've never seen, and it's continuing to rise. And so that rising supply in a market that's 34% overvalued suggests big problems on the horizon. We open up Reventure app and look at the overvaluation metric, which is one of the key ones that you guys should look at. You can see in Polk County, prices are 34% overvalued. The last time they were this overvalued was 06, before the big crash, and then they actually became undervalued for a while, everyone. So one thing to understand is that after the crash in Florida, or after kind of the crash builds enough steam, you will actually be able to find a property at a cheaper price. This is the benefit of looking into a volatile housing market like Florida. If you buy at the right time, you can get an amazing deal. I mean, there's lots of people who bought in Florida in 2010, 2011, 2012, and they got the deal of a lifetime because they bought at the right time after prices had dropped enough when no one wanted to buy in Florida. And so if you're someone who looks at this data and tracks the market and looks at the overvaluation rates and the home price forecast, you're going to set yourself up to be one of these people who gets a good deal as the crash unfolds, particularly in our number 1 housing market in Florida, where prices are set to drop, everyone. Values here are a massive 40% overvalued compared to their long-term norms. There's no other area in Florida where home prices are this overvalued, and now they've started to drop in Port St. Lucie. You can see that 37% overvaluation rate in Port St. Lucie, absolutely crazy. The typical home price is $400,000. The fair home price is $292,000, suggesting lots of downside, with the list prices now dropping year over year by 5%, and the inventory spiking up to 3,800 homes on the market. And to do that research so you can make a more educated decision, head to www.reventure.app right now and sign up for a premium plan that costs us $39 a month. You're going to gain tremendous insights on the future of your local housing market, particularly your zip code, by looking at the data on Reventure app. So head there right now and start searching your zip code.